All right. Happy Thursday, everybody. Big waves to you. Good to see you this morning. Yes, yes, yes. If you're not waving, you're missing a really good thing. It makes you smile. So, can you hear me okay? Coach, I'm good? Okay.
Good.
So we changed this word last minute. You know, we had a word, we were ready to go today, and then, well, for some reason, the word fearful was coming to my mind. And so we decided at the last hour last night that we were going to go in the direction of fearful. And when you look at this definition, I mean, it's experienced fear, frightened, inclined to feel anxious, anxiety, apprehension, timidness, nervousness. And there's a million quotes around being fearful, a million quotes. But, you know, the first thing I got to say is, I don't know, maybe you do, but I don't know of anything great ever in our life or in our world that was done in like a great, amazing way, that there wasn't moments along the way of fear, of being fearful. And, you know, one quote I came across: the fears we don't face become our limits. Think of that. If you don't face the fear, it can become your limit. There's something I say to myself all the time: Brent, challenge your limits. Don't limit your challenges. Like Tammy Motley made a great post today that says, you know, when you're scared because you don't know, how many times that's fearful? When you're scared because you don't know how to do something, how many times have we just not done it? Right. We're like, you know what? I'm just going to go back to that thing that I know how to do. Fear is temporary. Regret lasts forever. Another great quote. So, John Wayne, how many of you love John Wayne? John Wayne said, I hear the deep voice, son. Courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. John Wayne, you know, and I could go through more. Dr. Martin Luther King, Winston Churchill. Fear is universal. It's been around since the beginning of time. But no one wants to live their life in constant fear. So how do we be less fearful? Maybe you're sitting here today and you're trying to build a business. Maybe you've built a business and it's slacked off. Maybe you're trying to launch something completely new that's never been done. Fearful is going to attack us. So how do we be less fearful? Number one, we got to notice our fear. We got to notice it. What scares us? You know, it might be as simple as driving over a freeway overpass. You ever done that, where you're going over an overpass and you're looking off and it looks like you're just going to keep driving off the overpass? You know, it's so high up. We got to recognize the fear and go, you know what? I'm fearful of that, but I do it anyway. We got to recognize it. And that's a step to letting the fear go. Going, you know what? I'm kind of scared of heights. I'm fearful of heights, but I get up there anyway. And I'm okay to embrace that it's a little bit uncomfortable for me. Number two, find inspiration. Who in your life right now is fearless in the areas that you want to follow in their footsteps? You know, who in your life right now is like John Wayne? I know you got fear, but saddle up anyway. Let's go. Like who? Because we need those people. In times of being fearful, we got to seek counsel. And a lot of times that counsel goes, I know you scared, but get on that horse and keep riding. Number three, we got to be willing to look stupid. One way to be less fearful is to be okay with looking crazy. Being okay to go, you know what? This is the first time I've been through this. We're going to navigate this thing. We're going to learn. We're going to go back. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to fail, but I'm going to keep moving forward. Number 4, focus on gratitude. We talk about that all the time. Even in moments of extreme fear, there's still things to be grateful for. And we got to find those things. Hunt the gratitude. And last, put it in perspective. In the grand scheme of life, does it really matter? Right? You stumble over your words, you mess up a speaking engagement, you don't do something right, but in the grand scheme of things, how big is it? And a lot of times it's not as big as we're making it. It's not as big as we're making it. And the last, I wanted to not leave this out. Give yourself grace. We've got to be able to give ourselves grace and say, it requires a growth mindset. And giving ourselves grace that as we grow, we can change what we're wanting to do, right? We can maneuver, give ourselves grace of that. And the last thing, and I'm going to turn it to Coach. I had a lot of things around fearful today because it's such a word, and I think we're speaking to someone today. We're speaking to me today. There's things in my life right now that is kind of fearful, but you know what? We're going to saddle up. We're going to saddle up. And we're going on forward. And here's the thing. Any great person in our life, Dr. Martin Luther King, Winston Churchill, Thomas Edison in the light bulb. Do we know how many times he was scared and he failed and he was fearful? And today we have light because of that man. What about Abraham Lincoln? Failed and failed and failed, running for office, different local levels, like fearful, was terrible at being a student, like you could just go through the things, but he saddled up anyway and he stayed the course and he became the president of this great land. So Coach, the message today for me is really simple. Whatever it is in your life right now that you're a little scared, fearful of, maybe it's just that thing that's in your life for a reason to saddle up and go after. I'll turn it to you.
All right, Coach, here's one thing I know. You may be fearful and having some fear right now, but there is no doubt in my mind that you're going to hit it head on, buddy. So thank you so much for your message today. And if you will, pop up that picture on the screen for me. Oh my gosh, you ever had that look? It could, that could be it's a fearful look or it could be a shock look. All right, Aunt, thank you. But I thought that'd be a good thing for us to look at because every single one of us have had that before. Might have been going down a roller coaster. It might have been seeing a snake. It might have been something, but that face of fear hit us. Feeling afraid is fear, showing fear or anxiety. It's also an unpleasant feeling that is triggered by the perception of danger, real or imagined. Guilty. I have had some onset fear imagining things that weren't there. And I feel like everybody on here has as well. But what makes us fearful? Let's just talk about this for a little second. We all know that the universal trigger for fear is the threat of what? Harm, real or imagined. This threat can be our physical, emotional, or psychological well-being. While there are certain things that trigger fear in most of us, we can learn to become afraid of almost anything. When we get consumed in something, we just can almost turn into nervous Nelly 24/7. Learning to become afraid is crazy, but it's true. Here are some common fear triggers I want to share with you. There were several that I stumbled across, but I'm going to share just a few with you. Here's some things that I fear, and I think you did too at times. And I know our birthday girl, Kelly, had some fearful moments night before last by her little puppy being lost, that her puppy was blind. But darkness or loss of visibility of our surroundings. You think about that. When you walk into a dark place by yourself, you can't see. I'm going to tell you, I'm a little bit fearful. Got a little fear in me. Some people have a huge fear of heights. Some people can't fly. Or if they do, they have to knock themselves out with some kind of Bonine or Dramamine or whatever to get through it. Here's the thing that I think I want to make sure sticks with everyone on the call this morning, because a lot of us are in a business full time or have a side gig that this takes over us sometime. The fear of social interaction and or rejection. Boom. The fear of rejection is the thing that just hammers me. And people look at me all the time and say, I can't believe you're scared of anything. The fear of rejection, when I talk to anybody, when I'm coaching kids, whether I'm talking to adults, whatever, that fear can paralyze us if we let it. And I consider that the one huge fear that just dominates us. And of course, I think there's some fear of death. I think there's not as much fear of dying. I think that's changed a lot. I know with myself it is. Being fearful is also referred to as anxiety. This is when we're constantly worrying and we really don't know why. Our inability to identify that trigger is what prevents us from being unable to remove ourselves of the actual threat from that situation. I think we all relate to that well. So how do we respond to fear within ourselves? Fear is perceived as a negative emotion, but fear also serves a role in keeping us safe. Have you thought about it from that perspective? But we should never allow fear to control our every single move. Being fearful and always looking for a booger. You know that person? They're always out there scared of something, just looking for a booger in something. We can't do that. It will absolutely drain you. We got to respect the emotion of fear, but for us to live a fearful life was not what the good Lord planned for us. It was not. So, Anthony put that picture up, my last picture. So let me ask you this. What would you do if you weren't afraid? Ask yourself that. What would you do if you weren't afraid? Thank you, Aunt. Now, when you know what you would do if you weren't afraid, write it down. Write it down. I don't care how big or unreachable you think it is. Write it down. I want to end with a couple of things. Yoda said, fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. And hate leads to suffering. And in closing, I got to come up in here with a sports person. Babe Ruth said, don't let the fear of striking out hold you back. Do you know he led the league in strikeouts? But he is known as one of the best hitters that has ever played the game. So stop being fearful and swing for the fence today. All right, y'all. Have a great day. I love y'all.
Coach, thank you for the message. This energized me today.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I'm going to go attack the world differently. Have a great day. We love you. We're grateful for you. Let's go rock this Thursday. See you back tomorrow.
Okay, guys. Love y'all.
Blessings.